Council President, we're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Regular Township Council Meeting of April the 18th, 2023. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December the 21st, 2022, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December the 28th, 2022. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Please join us in the flag salute. Paul, would you please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a guest joining us from Parsippany High School, Lauren Smith. Lauren, welcome. Roll call, please.
Mr. Karifi? Here. Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Mr. Musella?
Here.
Mr. Neglia?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Jamie Barbario, Business Administrator Jamie Cryan, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, and Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, May the 2nd, 23 at 7 o'clock is our agenda meeting. 5/16/23 at 7 o'clock is our regular meeting. May we have approval of the minutes, please? A motion?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor, could you
Yeah.
make presentations or reports to us, please?
Thank you, Council President. I know we have the introduction to the budget tonight, so I'm going to read my statement during my mayor's portion. So thank you, Council President. First and foremost, I want to thank the CFO, Len Ho, the BA, Jamie Cryan, our auditors, the Finance Committee, and their whole team for the hard work leading up to this budget introduction. My throat's kind of a little dry and sore, so I apologize. I took a conservative approach to budgeting to minimize the impact of the national economy and current extraordinary inflation. I believe that the budget decisions must make Parsippany a stronger community today as well as 5+ years from now, and I am proud that our budget reflects these values. I'm proposing a fiscally prudent, structurally balanced budget that corrects the course of the past and puts Parsippany back on sound financial footing. We are putting forward a responsible, balanced budget that provides the services our community deserves. The overall increase in the tax rate is 2.57%, and the local tax rate is 3.76%. That's $100 annual impact to the average house assessed at, I think it's $313,000. That comes to $8.33 a month. Nobody likes a budget with a tax increase, but we have minimized the amount of the increase while dealing with significant nationwide economic impacts and external influences. The balanced budget overcomes significant fixed cost increases created by rising inflation and contractual increases and prepares the townships for future through critical infrastructure improvements and public safety investments. On top of the ongoing inflationary and supply chain issues, we are dealing with increase in health benefits costs, increased pension costs, increased utility costs, increased liability insurance premiums, and increased debt interest pressure, among other items. Through investments in our public safety, through investments in our public safety, fire, first responders, this budget prioritizes public safety, expanding the police department to the levels that it should be, up from a historic low of 81 deployable officers a few years ago. We're getting more officers on the street by civilianizing roles that can be civilianized and get more officers on the road. The budget provides for an additional funding to the volunteer ambulance and rescue and recovery. And the economic development, we increased that as well. The budget will be available online, and I, along with my CFO and BA, will be available to answer questions ahead of the public hearing on May 16th. I look forward to working collaboratively with the Township Council in the weeks ahead. As you know, when I took office in 2022, the township was pretty much in bad shape. We had, our surpluses were depleted, and we were going through a lot during the recovery. We got hit with with the COVID pandemic, and when the pandemic. But I want to point some certain things out. And some of the accomplishments that we made. Parsippany maintains a AA2 bond rating, provides clear information on how we are using taxpayers' money, contain costs while providing the highest levels of service to our residents, and we replenishes those fund balances. But some of the other major issues that we have, and I just talked about it previously, was our costs that went up. Our health benefits went up approximately 9%. Our debt interest went up 33%. And that's due to the fact that, if I'm correct, Lynn, the debt services from 18 all the way to 21 weren't being paid. And now it's come that we have to pay it. Our pension costs are up 15%, and utility costs are up 14%. The good news is that we were able to keep our bond rating at a AA2. And the reason why we were able to do that, because we were prudent in the things that we did going forward. But we still risk of losing on our bond rating going into next year if we don't have a certain percentage of surplus. Whatever your budget is, you have to have 12% surplus. So it's a new formula, and we don't want to lose our bond rating, because we lose the bond rating, we get decreased. What happens is the bond interest goes up. Going forward, I'll hold off on anything that comes up during the budget introduction, but I believe this is a very sound budget. We got it down to 3.76% at the tax level, but the overall tax increase will be 2.57%. And we worked very hard on this budget every single day, and we presented a budget that we felt comfortable with. Now, the reason why I feel comfortable with it was because, along with our auditor, I met with the auditor on several occasions, and I asked her last night, I was on the phone with her several times, do you feel comfortable? She said, I feel very comfortable with the budget that we have going forward. So that's just some of what's ahead. When we get to the May 16th, even the next meeting, we'll have a lot more to add. Thank you, Council President.
Township Council members, reports? Township Attorney, Mr. Lavery.
No report this evening, Council President. Thank you.
Business Administrator, Mr. Cryan.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Sorry. Got this, the same thing the mayor has, I guess. We're talking too much all day and all night.
Both names are Jamie, so we're gonna do.
There you go. Just wanted to thank Mayor and our CFO, Lynn Ho, who's here in the first row, for all of their hard work on this budget. It is something that is an ongoing thing, a process. It's not a once a year thing. It is introduced once a year and it's adopted once a year, but it's an ongoing process throughout the year. Len and Mayor started this process before I came aboard. This started back in November, meeting with department heads and closing out 22 and making sure that 23 was responsible. I believe this budget is very responsible and something that this council can take great pride in once we get to final adoption. If there's any questions by members of the public, it'll be online tomorrow for you. It'll also be available at the clerk's office. Please reach out to me, jcryan@parsippany.net, or 973-263-4361. We'll try to answer any of your questions that we have. And if I don't have the answers, I'll point you in the direction to get those answers. And most likely that'll be in Len Ho's direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Township offices, committees, reports? I have one. I have several. The Economic Development Committee welcomed La Fazio Italian Street Food on Wednesday, April the 12th. They are located at 77 New Road and Route 46. we will be welcoming VSA Future Learning Center, 2561 Route 10 in the Galleria 10 Mall on Saturday, April the 29th at 1:30 p.m. with a ribbon cutting ceremony. Everyone is invited to the grand opening open house. The next meeting of the Economic Development Committee is on Wednesday, May 5th. All meetings are held on the third floor conference room at 90 East Halsey Road. The public is invited. You may call Frank Cahill, 973-559-6000 for details. Engineering report, Mr. Carriffy, please.
2021 Road Resurfacing Curb and Sidewalk Program. The annual road resurfacing curb and sidewalk project is on hold pending negotiations with the contractor. No council action required. Rockaway River flood wall levee inspection. Our consultant is working on preparing design details and a cost estimate for the maintenance and repair work to the flood wall and levee. Recent site inspections were made to aid the design and repairs. Once the design and necessary permitting is complete, the project will be advertised for bid. No council action required. North Beverick Road Streetscape Project, Phase 1. The first phase of the North Beverick Road Streetscape Project will be advertised for bid in April. According to the NJDOT grant, the project must be awarded by May 16, 2023. No council action required. 2023 Road Resurfacing Curb Sidewalk Program. The annual road resurfacing and curb sidewalk project bid opening was held on March 29, 2023, and we request award of the project at the April council meeting. The resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Drumlin Drive stream cleaning. NJDEP permits have been issued for this project. Our consultant is finishing the design, and we intend to bid the project over the winter. No council action required. Pudding Stone Heights Road Improvement Project, Phase 2. The second phase of Pudding Stone Heights Road Improvement Project is in design. We anticipated bidding the project in the spring. No council action required. Jefferson Road improvements. We received a $760,000 NJDOT grant for improvements to Jefferson Road, from Parsippany Road to Smith Road. The improvements include the resurfacing of the roadway, minor intersection upgrades, and significant drainage improvements, particularly near the East Halsey Road intersection. Plans are in design, and the project will be bid once NJDEP permits have been issued. No council action required. Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 7. The Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 7 project was awarded at the March council meeting. A pre-construction meeting will be held in April to discuss the start date and project schedule. We anticipate construction to begin in late May and continue through the beginning of October. No council action required. Lake Intervale Area Street Improvements. The first phase of the Lake Intervale Area Street Improvements project is in design. We anticipate bidding this project once funding is available. No council action required. Roadway design projects. The following projects are in design or proposals have been requested. Troy Brook stream cleaning, Silver Way sidewalk improvements, river and stream desnagging plans and permits, Etten Road traffic study, Silver Way culvert improvements. No council action required.
Bids were taken on 4/20/23, PAR S2201, Well 4, High Service Redundant Pump Action.
Yes, to be taken.
To be taken, excuse me, bids to be taken. 5/3/23, North Beverick Road Streetscape, Phase 1. Quotations, proposals, and qualifications on 4/20/23 fireworks display services. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes,
Okay, the motion passes. The floor is open to the public. You can speak on any matter. You have 5 minutes to speak. Please state just your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I know you're introducing the budget. I just had a question.
Excuse me, we need your name.
Oh, sorry, Judith
It's a-
Hernandez. Hi. Will there be public hearings on the meeting as has been, on the budget has been customary in years past?
That's not up to me, that's up to the council.
If we feel that public hearings are warranted, I'm sure we can come to an agreement on that.
I mean, typically, that's what was in the past, public hearings, and then department heads are there talking about their budget as well, so the residents can understand what's going on. Like debt service, I don't even understand how the debt service cannot be paid from 2018 to 2022, and I think I'm kind of smart, but, you know,
Well,
so people might have questions about those kinds of things, so,
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I've been told, even when I came in 2022,
Yeah.
with regards to that. And that's why the debt service was so high. When I left, I think it was 119 million. When I was running for mayor, it was 183 million. So obviously it wasn't being paid down.
there was a, yeah, that's when the bills came due, I think. But I'm just talking about the public hearings. It would be, I think the public would appreciate if there were, as in years past, public hearings, or maybe meetings is what you should call, so they could understand what's presented and what's going in the budget and each department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council people, James Anderson. I was here 2 years ago, same issue. During the beautification project in Mount Tabor, in front of my neighbor Bob Long's home, there was some Belgian block curbing installed. And new storm water drains and lines put underground. During that construction, they dug up my water pipe, which ironically runs from North Place in front of Bob's house through his property to my home. I live on Heading Place. So the back of his property touches my property. Properties are bordered by a 100-year-old stone wall, beautiful gardens, and it became an issue 2 years ago when the water department said we'd have to replace that water line going from the main to our home, digging up his property, undermining a 100-year-old wall, and because they said it leaked. They never proved it leaked. I said, please let me present this to the council and the mayor at the time, 2 years ago, and they said, okay, but we're not going to put a line down your road to your house. I said, that line would affect the 3 homes at the beginning of the street, and 3 other properties whose water lines those homes go through, including our home and Bob Long's property. So they said, no, that's it's not an option. And we went back and forth. The council was very supportive of me, as was the mayor at the time. And 2 years later, I thought it had kind of become a dead issue. 2 years later, you're replacing all the 3/4-inch galvanized pipe that carries water, apparently in Mount Tabor, with copper. I know that the line in my home is copper because we had a tankless water heater installed, and so I don't know where they're coming from with this galvanized line. They've threatened me. They said that they would slap a non-C of O on my door and shut my water off. Bob, my neighbor and friend, has told them, I don't want you digging up my property to install a line through my property to my neighbor's house, my house. They have not relented. They've threatened me. They've been extremely non-compromising. I said, this line, that if you put it down our street, would affect all these other homes as well. And not only the 3 homes that it would feed, but the 3 other homes, like I said, that lines are going through.
Sir, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. So you all know me, baseball, fireman. I work for the sewer utility. We live here in town. We moved out of the city after 9/11. We came and raised our son in this town. And it's been a beautiful experience until the last 2 years with Sean Andres and his superior, Waroka, have made this more like a manhunt. And it's caused us a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of duress. I don't know why there can't be some compromise. This would bankrupt us. We would go flat broke if we had to replace this. And Bob doesn't want a line going through his house. He can't do anything with his house now that he knows my water line goes through his home, near his foundation and everything. It's just unbearable. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Mayor, Council, Kim Anderson, I'm James's spouse, I'm doing the mop-up here. Yeah, we live in Mount Tabor, it's a very unusual community, as you know, and utilities should really run up the street that you live on. We're perfectly happy to replace our water line, but it goes through private property, and it would require the destruction of a 7-foot, 100-year-old stone wall, plus a retaining wall outside of our foundation. So I just wanted to emphasize that, when the gas line was discovered as going through our neighbor Bob Long's yard, he contacted the utility company, and they put the line up the street, as it should be. It just doesn't make any sense to have it go through someone's property. I have no idea why that was done. Maybe when the town was, first started in 1869. But for today, the utilities should go up the street, and really, we want to comply with the law and replace, the service line, but, we can't do so, until the utilities run up the street. So, and I welcome all of you to come out and see the unusual topography at our house, because it's fairly unique. So, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate your time. So, thank you.
My name is Peter Hyman. I'm president of the Four Seasons at Troy Hills Condo Association. On March 17th, I sent an email to action@parsippany.net to the attention of Mayor Barbario. I'm here with Dennis Zybura, Suzanne Evdokimo, and Audrey Hyman, board members and residents of our community. Directly across the street from our development, the Four Seasons at Troy Hills, is the Sewer System Improvement Project on Old Bloomfield Avenue. We are concerned because there's been damage to our property, damage to Old Bloomfield Avenue itself, which is basically completely destroyed, damage to the sidewalks, parts of the sidewalks in our community, damage to the lawn, our front lawn in the common area, and also damage to our pavers. And then there's an additional item that was not in the email to you. I realize now there's damage to our sprinkler system. When the supervisors, when I met with the supervisors in October, they started the project in August of last year. I met with them in October, and they said, this property, your property, will be restored to the way it was before we were here. They're almost finished with laying the pipework. Are you all familiar with the project?
Mhm.
Okay. They're almost finished with the pipework, and now they said within the next week or so, they'll start paving, okay? And they want to do an inspection with the town, but we would also like to be involved with the inspection. We want to make sure that all the damage to our property is taken care of before they leave. And if we have any concerns, that they're all addressed before they leave. And that's how important, it's important to us because it's important to the well-being of 46 homes paying almost $600,000 a year in taxes. You don't have to pave our roads. You don't have to plow our roads. And we're an over 55 community that doesn't have children in the school. So a lot of the tax money goes to something like the sewer system improvement project. So it's important to us for the well-being of our community and also for our property values. And I just want to say one thing to all of you. Picture yourself living in our community. How important would it be to you? Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I did receive your email, and we did discuss what was going on in the area due to the fact that they were doing a reconstruction of the sewer system. I met with our BA to discuss it further. I would like to meet with you privately, well, not privately, but you can come into my office and we can discuss more in detail what I know you said what you're looking for here tonight, but
Yeah.
there's things that you might want to inform me more about when we meet. And I spoke to the superintendent of our sewer department with regards to what was going on and your concerns.
I met with him, Joe
Yeah,
Beckmeyer.
Joe Beckmeyer, but,
Yeah.
feel free, call my office, set up an appointment, and we'll discuss it further.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Ricky Mitra, and I live on New Road. A few weeks ago, Sean Astorga and Casera Grasso, who own Happy Days Boutique, petitioned to amend the current cannabis ordinance in Parsippany. I personally know Sean and Casera, and I strongly support Happy Days Boutique's mission to operate a cannabis dispensary in this town. I met Sean in 2016 when I became a patient of his, and I met Casera soon after. We've all been friends ever since. I think now more than ever, it's important to encourage local residents to create new businesses in their hometown. I see all the vacant properties driving down Route 46, and I think it's such a shame that we don't have a locally owned business filling these storefronts. Sure, there's some big companies coming in and slowly taking over some of these vacancies, but as far as I know, none of them are owned by local residents. Both Sean and Casera already have years of experience running successful healthcare businesses of their own. Casera has experience working within the cannabis industry, has researched the market, and understands how to operate a safe and secure cannabis retail establishment from the ground up. With Sean's background in finance and healthcare, both him and Casera make a dynamic leadership team to open this town's first dispensary. It's imperative for this community and town council to give these two local small business owners the ability to open and operate a dispensary here in Parsippany. Like the other Parsippany residents before me, I'm petitioning the council to amend the current cannabis ordinance so that Happy Days Boutique has the chance to operate in town. They've had a positive influence on many lives, and I'm sure that they will on this town too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's his name here too?
Good evening. My name is Bob Long. I'm James and Kim's neighbor. Wasn't planning to speak here tonight. I don't have a whole lot to say. I agree with them. I was before the council 2 years ago and explained why I felt that this water pipe has to be run in the road in front of their house so that they can connect to it. Having it connect through my yard is lunacy. They received a letter from the water department saying, either you pay for it, arrange for it, or we'll do it. I can assure you that nobody is going through my yard with a pipe. You may sit there and think, how did it get there in the first place? Well, it was done over 100 years ago when things were a lot less formal. There's no easement through my property. Nobody is digging through my property to connect to the water system. The only legitimate, logical way to do it is to run the pipe down West Heading, just as the gas company did 20 years ago. Thank you.
Yep. Just real quick, and I'm hearing the concerns and I understand them, but back in 2022, the federal government came out with a rule called the lead copper rule, which I'm sure you're aware of. The federal government said that any pipes that are lead have to be replaced with copper. Well, Parsippany has no copper pipes, but then the state, I think the DEP in the state, and then said that no, we're gonna make it more restrictive, saying that you also galvanized pipes. So when they said galvanized pipes, all the Mount Tabor is pretty much galvanized. Okay, now we're being told by the state we have 10 years to replace all the pipes that are galvanized with copper, and we don't have a choice. That is their rule, and they're telling us that if we don't do it, we can be summoned, we can be fined. And that's the problem we're having in Mount Tabor. From what I understand, those pipes are galvanized pipes that, even if it goes through private property, they have to be replaced with copper. And as you know, council, we went into an executive session and we discussed about how we would do this, because all the residents in in Mount Tabor would have to pay for anything that was on private property. We felt that's pretty much a burden that the state put on, not just the township, but on the residents as well. And so, if I'm correct on the ordinance, I don't know if I am, I'm asking the township attorney, the ordinance that was created said that if those galvanized pipes are not going to be done, the township would go on it, replace them with copper, and the homeowner would have, like, I think it was 10 years to pay them back, to pay the town back, and we would put a lien on the property. It's horrible to say that, but this is not us. It's the state that's telling us we have to do it. Now, as opposed to private property, I don't know how we're gonna deal with that going forward, because it is their property, but at the same time, the town's being told that you have to change these galvanized pipes to copper. So what choice do we have? If we're being told we can't go on private property, but the state says, well, you have to change them, so then what happens to the township? What happens to the residents? That's the issue we have at hand right now, and I know this has been going on for a while, and I understand that. But the town has a responsibility, not that we wanted the responsibility, it's the state imposed it on us, and they gave us the responsibility. Basically what they did, like they do most of the time, is they light the fuse and they hand it off to the township. We get no funding whatsoever for this project. It's gonna come out of the water utility. And we're estimating it to be, I guess, approximately 4.5 million. That was then, as you know, costs going up. Supply and demand, the supply chain is down, so I guarantee it's going to be more than $4.5 million. But we're being told we have no choice but to replace those pipes. So my point is this: as much as we would love to help, the state's telling us we don't have a choice, and it's frustrating to us, and very frustrating to us, because we have no lead, and I don't know why the state took it one step further when the federal government said copper was all you needed to, lead was all you needed to replace. So that's where we're at right here with that.
And the unfortunate thing is, as you know, in Mount Tabor, that was put in there not by the town, but when Mount Tabor was built, and they have these crisscross lines that go all over the place, and then there's a case dealing with, the Mount Tabor Association where the courts required you to become part of a town, and you became part of Parsippany. So when that happened, that's when Parsippany inherited all these crisscross pipes and everything else. So it's, as the mayor said, it's a difficult situation. I think the complaint should go above us, to like your local senators and assembly people, because it's a state requirement, it's a state statute. The mayor and council don't want to impose this. The town doesn't want to have to spend money, and we certainly don't want to, they don't want to impose it on the residents of Mount Tabor, but we have to do, and there's a timeline, we have to do 10% within a certain period of time. And again, I don't believe there's any lead pipes over there, it's galvanized pipe, but they've included that in the statute, so.
Can I just say one thing really quick in response? We're happy to comply with the law, and.
Used to come up to speak.
Yeah, excuse me, Miss Anderson,
Come up and speak.
could you come up to speak, please? I thought she couldn't respond.
Yeah, no, I understand that it's state mandated, and we would be happy to pay for, digging and replacing pipes on our property, but not through our neighbor's property. And in order to do that on our property, the line's got to go up the street. So,
Well,
we're happy to put in Piper cops on our property,
so what I'll do is I'll speak with the water superintendent to see if there is an alternative. And, because that's really all I can do going forward, but even if you don't want us to come on private property, the state says you gotta change the pipes, and I get that.
Yeah, no, I mean.
We don't wanna go on private
Yeah,
property.
no, I'm happy to have you come on my private
Right,
property. I have
but-
no issue with that, but,
Right.
to have to dig up my neighbors, knock down huge walls, it would impact our foundation. I mean, this would be like, doing like a mining job on the side of a mountain just because of the topography. And, when we moved to town, we didn't know we would face these issues. What homeowner would, if I could have foreseen this, I never would have bought in Mount Tabor, because this is a huge issue. This would cost, at least 50,000, so.
I think if there's kind of two issues here, because one, I mean, that makes no sense. That's ridiculous to have to do that. So if it's possible, if a new pipe can be run up the street and then into your property, that's one issue. I don't know what the other ramifications are if the existing pipe were to be capped off. Could it, with this new DEP requirement, could it just be left there so that the other gentleman's property doesn't have to be completely torn up? And this wall and everything else, or does that have to be removed out of the ground?
It's no longer a water pipe.
Yeah.
Right, so it shouldn't,
Right.
it should be able to just stay.
Yeah,
So I
'cause
think
the
the issue
concern
is
is, the concern is making sure people have
And that's,
clean
and that's,
drinking water.
that's what I'm gonna ask the,
If we can
superintendent.
somehow just get this pipe run up the street
Yeah, as long as it's not used
and
anymore.
cap that old
Yeah.
one off.
Yeah, that would be a perfectly
I mean, that-
reasonable solution.
Uh,
And I know this
Believe
is,
me, I'm with
this
you.
is not something the township wanted to do, and I sympathize. I mean, why should we all have copper?
Well,
But,
just as the mayor said, it's state
Yeah.
mandated, so.
yep, yeah, it's state
I'm
mandated.
sure the
So.
superintendent of the water
Yep,
will,
and we'll
try to
all
help,
work
the mayor
something
will.
out, and I appreciate you
Thank you.
listening and your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Bernie Clarkin. I came to hear more about the budget. I appreciate that you said that it's going to be online tomorrow, which is great. I look forward to reviewing it. I think you said, Mayor, that if anybody has questions, they have to go to you or the BA.
Yeah, the BA, you can ask the BA,
So
or
how does one go about doing that?
call them up.
Okay, all right, because we had this conversation.
Email them, you can email them as well.
Didn't happen.
You can email them as well.
All right, now going back to something else that was said earlier, Judy Hernandez got up and asked a question, and then somehow you kind of wove in that the debt service wasn't being met during several prior years. Now, as I've told you, I'm a CPA, old CPA. That infers there was a default. And then later on, that's what most people would infer from that.
Right.
I don't think you really meant it because there was no.
There was no default. Right.
And I'm gonna,
Yeah, he's also CFO, so you know.
Just, Len, I apologize, I need you to speak into the mic, just so we're on the record.
Yeah, so when a final ordinance is adopted, the town is allowed to spend for a capital project.
Can you speak into the mic, Len?
At the same time, they're allowed to borrow money for the project. So the law allows you to borrow money, but only for the first 3 years, you're only responsible to pay the interest portion of it, not the principal. So after 3 years, those projects are required to starting to pay down, what we call as pay down. You're starting to require the town to pay the principal portion of it after the 3 years. So there are several projects that we started to borrow from several years ago. Now we have been having to responsible to pay not only the interest, but also the principal portion of it.
Which is totally normal.
Yep.
Normal, so it's not abnormal. You agree?
Yep, that's normal.
Thank you. And then I would also add that,
Mr. Clark, if you could just speak into the mic.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I would also add that, I do look at the various ordinances, the guys are continuing to bond a lot of things here, and I understand why, but, having your debt go up, we're still well within the limits of what the laws allow for. So there was no default, and the inference was that there was a default, and I just.
No, I never said that.
Well, you didn't
If I
say
would,
it.
if I thought there was a default, I would have said default.
Okay, but you said that the debt service was not being met, and your own CFO just said that was not a problem, it's the norm. So, I just wanted to clarify that with
That's
everybody.
fine.
Thank you, I look forward
Thank you.
to seeing the budget.
Thank you.
This is a public portion, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. My name's Julia Peterson. I live at 25 Old Parsippany Road. At the January 24th council meeting, the council passed R 203032, a resolution authorizing the preliminary investigation of a property on Parsippany Road, Planet X West, as to whether it qualifies as an area in need of redevelopment. At the time that it was passed, this resolution had not been advertised in the Morristown Record, and the council members expressed they had not seen it in advance of that meeting. Additionally, the resolution referred to Block 226, Lots 3 and 3.02 instead of Lots 3 and 3.2. This caused additional confusion for those of us that live near there. The resolution was proposed at the last minute by an attorney who was in the audience, who, when called upon, stated that the owner wanted to build a warehouse. This is all on the tape. I transcribed this from the tape. I don't understand why the procedure that's usual for resolutions wasn't followed in this case. I mean, usually a resolution is posted and it's advertised before the council sees it. So that wasn't followed. Neighbors need to know what's going to happen in their neighborhood. And as those of us who live near the demolition of Lanadex East, which is now called Park at Parsippany, which is going to have 600 apartments and 75 townhomes, we know that areas in need of redevelopment mean demolition, noise, dust, loss of water pressure, loss of electricity. I urge the council, when you're thinking about these areas, to consider alternatives to demolition, because we have a lot of unoccupied office buildings. And it's really easy for someone to do what we call in the historic preservation area, demolition by neglect. And that is in fact what happened to the building at Lanadex West on Lot 3. So I don't know, I know how expensive adaptive reuse is, and I know developers don't like adaptive reuse, but I know that it's possible. It's possible to take a building and make it into something else, especially a building with as much open space as some of these have. Luckily, and I'm going to ask a question at the end, the review process, I hope, will lead to an appropriate redevelopment plan for this lot, which is bordered on all sides by residential zones, an elementary school, Park-Troy Funeral Home, and a historic house that's protected from development in perpetuity. And there's also Town Park there. We hope that the process will be one in which the neighbors of this project will be informed participants. Thank you for listening. Okay, so the process now is, it comes back to you, right? Because the report is finished. The report is available in the town clerk's office, and I've read it. So that's the preliminary report. So the next step is, that report comes back to you, and you guys say, okay, yeah, it is an area in need of redevelopment. And then it goes back to the planning board, and the planning board develops a plan. And then there's a hearing on the plan.
Yes.
And all of the people who are within 200 feet will be noticed. And anyone else who wants to speak at that hearing can file with the town clerk to be heard. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
it's a statutory process that they go through, so it
Okay.
can take some time.
And legal representation is not necessarily necessary. I mean, we can assume that if you stand up and say, my property's next door, and these are the conditions, that you will be not laughed down because you aren't saying that as a lawyer.
No, absolutely correct. It's just like any other planning board hearing, so
Okay.
anybody that's interested can come up and speak. You don't have to be represented by counsel, with the exception of obviously if a corporation shows up and has something to say about the application, they're required to be represented by
Okay.
counsel. But any of the residents can come up and speak and make statements. You can hire experts. You can,
Yeah.
not that you would, but, it's
You
basic.
could.
You can participate any way that you wish.
Okay, and it
30
is a
seconds.
little irregular to not have a resolution advertised in the paper of record, is it not?
Well, you can add resolution, as long as somebody didn't know about it and had some malintent, and like holding a resolution and then adding it at the last minute. It's not out of the ordinary to have something added to the agenda at the last minute. Ordinances as well, you're not required to, have them, like I said, as long as it just comes up like the day before or whatever, you can add it to the agenda.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Good evening, my name is Hank Keller. I just have three quick things that I'd like to mention. I'd like to know when we can expect the reservoir, Jersey City Reservoir, to be open for recreational use. I know that was something that was planned and talked about, but I don't know if that's happened or is happening.
I can answer if you want to wait to answer all your questions, just gets us more.
Okay, I'll just go right through this then, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. I'm personally very much against the cannabis dispensary in Parsippany. There are dispensaries nearby, and we do not need, in my opinion, more access to hallucinogenics by people who share the roads with us. As it is, since the COVID shutdown, our roads are much more dangerous due to people driving irresponsibly at high speeds, and I don't think we need to help them to be more out of control. That's my personal view. Number three, I'm hoping that there'll be open public meetings before the current budget is adopted and voted on. If the town council votes to accept before the public has a chance to tell you all what we think, it could really become problematic in this political environment. So please make sure that we can get to tell you what we think makes sense to us. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, with regards to the reservoir being open, when I came back, well, first of all, it started in 2017. I met with the mayor of Jersey City with regards to opening it up. And there was a lot of issues that we had to deal with. One was policing. The township, at that time, we didn't know if we could even afford to police it, but that was worked out with the sheriff's office over there. They're going to be policing it. They have to still come in front of the planning board for a courtesy review. We're waiting on that. I've been in touch with the architect, and not the engineer and stuff like that. We're looking forward to opening, but until they come in front of the board and they give us the plans, because I think it's in 3 phases. Because I think 80% of the reservoirs in Parsippany, even though they're called the Bruton Reservoir, and they have to clear the pathways. I got to do a whole bunch of stuff yet, but I'm hoping at the end of next year and the beginning of 2025 that maybe next year sometime it'll be done. But they haven't really contacted me, so I had to continue to contact them. But once I get more clear picture, I can announce it at a meeting here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, they just received I believe it's a $600,000 grant to move that project along. And with those funds, the progress should be accelerated.
Hi, my name is Bob Venezia, and I just have two quick budget-related questions. First one is, will there be any transfers from water, sewer, or any other fund surplus account into the 2023 general budget? If so, please identify the fund and the amount being transferred. And the second question is, ordinance 2023:04 authorizes $7 million in bonds to provide for water utility capital improvements. Will this capital improvement project be subject to the Project Labor Agreement, or PLA ordinance, because the projected amount exceeds $5 million? Those are the two questions.
Well, I'll go to the bond. I don't know if that 7 million for one project, I could be wrong. I think it's for several projects. Yeah, it's 4 projects, but totaling $7 million. So that, I don't think it would exceed the 5 million.
Okay.
As for surplus and transfer funds, yes, there was, I don't know the exact amount, I don't have it in front of me, but there was money transferred from water and sewer.
This year?
To the general fund.
This year?
Yep.
Okay.
Nick Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. You have the North Beverwick Road streetscape and then the resurfacing sidewalk programs. Hopefully, they include storm drains. You have obsolete storm drains, and especially along North Beverwick, where you have all that litter from the commercial. They have, they have the receptacles that people leave it in the street, but you have outdated storm drains. And even with the modern ones, it still gets in the storm drain, but with the old ones, so hopefully it includes replacement to an upgraded storm drain. I'd agree too that the past practice was the public, we used to be here sometimes 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So just to suddenly not have the public participate in what's going on with the budget is a little, strange. I would like to say a word in behalf of the young business people for a future prosperity, because we're projecting and being hypothetical about what this boutique will really bring. And the people who drive, they drive nuts anyway, because everybody's stretched out getting to point A to point B. But to say that things will get worse without knowing what the reality is already because of a boutique in town, and the whole thing about the gateway, the council president with the gateways, I would like to say that two cycle gas power leaf blowers and vape products are gateways to cancer, heart, and lung disease. I would also like to say the little airport liquor bottles are gateways to drink, drive, litter, pollute, and disrespect your community. And there was an article this week in the city of Boston. They're fed up with the little liquor bottles, and they're seriously thinking about banning them. So if you can stop a young couple from really it's a form of minority rule, because the people want to legalize marijuana. So we're, by our contention and hypotheticals, are allowing them, and then the mayor says, well, the big boys are going to take over already. So are you for small business, or are you for the big boys? Because if the big boys are going to take it over anyway, then give them an opportunity to get their piece of the pie before the big boys get over. And don't blame the state. You're responsible for this town. And if everybody, nobody agrees, everybody has to make everything political. So the majority of people say they want something. And then the end result is, because of politics on other levels, minority rule sets in. Now, the mayor should say, yes, I approve it, or no, I don't, and then let the council decide. But to put it off on the governor, if the governor was a Republican and he said, I'll take marijuana, or you could have, the whole state, you can do whatever you want to do, would you have a problem with it then? Probably not. And marijuana is not a drug per se, it's a medicine. And it's been around for thousands of years. So to make such a big deal out of one thing and not the vape products, the little liquor bottles, I just can't agree with that. And I'll say something later about the water infrastructure when that comes up for the public hearing. So, thank you.
I would like to respond, if you don't mind.
Please do.
With regards to cannabis, what I stated, Nick, was the fact that there was a referendum passed in Parsippany and the whole entire state, and I think approximately 70% of the residents approved marijuana. And I think they approved it for recreational use. That's my opinion. But to sit here, and it has nothing to do with being a Republican or a Democrat, to sit there and be that naive to think that the state takes it, they create the laws, they make the 5 categories, okay? They light the fuse, like I said before, and they give it back to the towns to make the decision. Well, the decision was already made at the local level, okay? I think the voters voted for 70% in Parsippany for recreational. The state says, no, you have to have all these categories of marijuana. And if you really are that naive to think that the state doesn't try to control it, they do try to control it. It's that simple. If they didn't try to control it, they control everything, let's face it. Consolidated municipal property tax relief rate.
I'm not talking about control.
No, you said the governor, he's the state. I'm not directing this at the governor. Has nothing to do with the governor. Has to do with the fact that it comes down to one thing, and I said it over and again, I'll say it again, comes down to money. That's what it's gonna come down to, okay? I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. What I'm saying is that this is the reality. The towns got left. They threw it at the towns and said you have to August 22nd of 2021 to make a decision, and that's where they got faced with. That was the ordinance that the town council had to create, and that was the ordinance where I was the business administrator in Tewksbury and Lebanon Township, what they had to deal with. State imposed. It was all state imposed, okay? With that being said, you said marijuana is a medication. Well, so's Percocet, okay? And I'm not saying marijuana is a drug. No,
Percocet's a drug.
I know, but it's not a medication, so it's okay. I'm not telling you I'm in favor or against it. What I'm saying to you is, this is what the state has imposed. And to think that the state's not gonna control it going further, they are, because they give you the tax, they give a certain percentage of tax, right? Revenue, they take a portion of it. Why don't we take it all? So it's all comes down to money. But right now in the township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, our ordinance doesn't allow for recreational use. I mean, a dispensary.
And one last thing about money. Inflation, there's no excuse for inflation. Not inflation, it's exploitation. Because these corporations are making record profits. So you tell me why we have inflation. Because they can get away with it, and they can make any excuse they want why they're doing what they're doing. That's being exploited by the corporate class. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Homiak.
All right, thanks, Nick.
Anyone else? See no one else? I'd like to make a...
No, Council President, we have someone coming up.
Sorry about that.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor, for giving us some glimpse about,
Excuse me, may we have your name?
Danny
please?
Desai. I'm sorry. My name is Danny Desai. I'm sure everyone heard that. Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving us some glimpse about the budget and give us some tax increase, 2.7%. We were all hoping there will be no tax increase this year, since we increased last time 13% or more approximately. So I was hoping we have some surplus, and I was expecting some no increase. But anyway, thank you. We're looking forward to see and review it, your budget online. Thank you.
Seeing no one, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Councilman?
Yes. Introduction ordinance 2023-06, ordinance to exceed the municipal appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank for calendar year 2023 pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on April 18th, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on May 16th, 2023, at 7 p.m. Prevailing time or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given the opportunity to be heard concerning the said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction, therefore being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2023:06.
No, my turn.
You gave me the, told me.
Resolution 2023-059, 2023 municipal budget introduction. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a few comments.
Please do, Council Member Karifi.
Okay, in reference to this budget, as it was stated that it's an overall tax increase of 2.57% to each resident, which works out to about $8.33 per month. This budget, and I know it was tough on the administration, and I want to give the mayor and our BA and our CFO credit for working hard to keep this down. But this budget promotes public safety and economic development. At one point, under the old administration, we were down to 81 deployable police officers, okay? We added 9 police officers, and we are adding 5 more. That's 14 more police officers. 14 more police officers. We had residents come to our meeting and state that they wanted more police officers. We even had residents say, I'm willing to pay more. The crime rate is up. People's houses were being broken into. Cars were being stolen. Okay, we had residents come and say that. 14 more police officers now, 5 more under this. Okay, currently, on the national level, we have historic inflation. Everything, every single item is up. Prices are up. Gas, over the last 2+ years, is up, fluctuating anywhere from $1 to $3, $4 more a gallon. All of this needs to be taken into consideration when you're doing a budget. Okay, the cost of every single item has increased. And under this budget, again, it's only a 2.57 tax increase, overall tax increase to each resident. It also, like I've stated, it also provides money towards stressing economic development, trying to bring in new businesses to create additional revenue for the town. It provides additional funding to the volunteer fire and rescue, which I'm sure every single resident in here, including myself, including everyone up here, considers a very important and vital part of our community. It also replenishes our fund balance. Our fund balance is going up. Surplus has increased from $1 million to $6.4 million as a result of prudent oversight. These are just some of the things that this budget includes. And again, for approximately an $8.33 a month increase to the average home, I feel that this budget is very, very economically prudent and looks out for the taxpayers and our public safety, especially in our town. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say a few words, and I think that first and foremost, I'd like to thank the administration for presenting us with a budget, and I look forward to working with my colleagues on coming up with a budget that we all can agree on. I think the important thing that we owe to the taxpayers is having a process where there is public input and where we have the opportunity to interview the department heads, the CFO, and the business administrator, so that way I can have a full understanding as to, the meaning behind the full increase. So I'm happy to vote for the introduction of it and work with my colleagues, but I want to know if my colleagues will join me in having a day where we can have a budget hearing and have this be a collaborative process.
Anybody else?
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no other discussion?
Well, I asked a question, so I'd like to know what the answer is, because that's going to be important to how I vote.
I've also, just one other thing for the record, you can also contact these department heads. I've done that myself. I've spoken to department heads and through the mayor and through the BA, and asked questions myself about these different things as this budget process has been going on, so.
Well, I understand, and I definitely can do that, but I feel like we owe it to the taxpayer to give them the opportunity to hear department by department what is the reasoning behind each increase, if there are any. But, and I think that's really the spirit of what I'm looking to accomplish. It should be a very simple and straightforward process where we can have a day set up. We'll have each department head come in. We'll have the business administrator and the CFO here, and we'll have a hearing. And I think that would be a great way where we can all work together on trying to identify new opportunities to help these residents and find out some solutions on where we might be able to eliminate some expenditures.
Absolutely, but if I may just ask Mr. Crine a question, a lot of the increase is due to, as the mayor stated, the increase in costs in pension and insurance and different items and things like that as well, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Plus we have contractual obligations. We are, collective bargaining. We have 1, 2, police, blue collar, and those contracts are being negotiated now with regards to, and we have to abide by those obligations. That's just some of the increases, but, strictly up to you guys. That's not up to the,
I mean, I'm all for that.
Good.
I'll make a comment since it's been brought up. When I look at the budget, I also had to look at the situation for the past 6 years. The previous administration had a hiring freeze on all departments except his own department. Every department head lost people either through retirement or leaving, for whatever reason. And some of the supplies they needed didn't come through on time either. So every single department has already been hurting for not just those 4 years of a previous administration, but last year we were trying to catch up and put out the fires. So we couldn't give back to them even then. This is the first time we're trying to restore the manpower and the equipment that all these department heads need. I didn't see any place in any of the department heads' budgets that I would want to cut. They're all still short people, and in a lot of cases, no one's coming. They can't even hire anybody. No one's applying for the jobs. So there was nothing I could see that I would want to cut in any of the departments at this point in time.
Any further discussion?
Anybody else?
Okay, seeing none, I have to go into a roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes,
Mr. Musella?
but with all due respect, my question isn't answered. Is there going to be a commitment to have a budget hearing where we can discuss this? Maybe what Council Vice President DePiero is saying is correct. There's nowhere we can cut, but I don't know that, and I can't explain that to my constituents unless I know that we can have a day where we can have department by department come in, sit down, have the necessary public input, and then we'll be able to come to some more informed conclusions.
Okay, Mr. Musella, I understand your question, but at this point, if you're not receiving an answer, then you have three choices. You can vote yay, nay, or abstain at this point.
I just don't understand why I can't get a simple yes or no.
Okay, again, I understand what you're saying, but in the interest of expediency and efficiency, I need some kind of answer from you,
But
given the fact that
Councilman
it's...
Karifi agrees with what I'm asking for. Council President, is this something that we can do?
Well, I will speak to administration. I will speak to my fellow councilmen, and we have an opportunity to review this budget. We've gotten new paperwork and new figures. I've spoken to you before, Councilman Nusella, and there are items that you would like to eliminate. But once you eliminate key positions, or any position, once you say, I don't want it on this person's
Department.
thank you, this person's department, and they need a person in that particular department, we can't hire that person, and I've mentioned that to you before.
I understand.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
glad you
so-
understand
I
that.
do, but this is what I would like to, and I
will talk-
respect what you're saying, but I'm not going to take your word for it. I would like the
Mr.
department heads to explain the status of their departments, and I want to hear it from them.
Okay,
If that's what they're saying, then we'll find that out through a necessary process that prior to COVID was a part of our standard operating procedure.
Okay, so
We did this.
I understand the discussion, Mr. Musella. This is what I will say. I'll advise you is, if you'd like that, what we need to do is, because there's a motion on the floor, we have to vote on the motion. If you want an answer to that question, then you could make a motion after this motion.
Can I
For-
make a motion?
You can't make a motion while there's a motion on the floor. So after this motion, you can vote, and then if you'd like, you can make a motion with regards to this question in the form of a motion about a budget hearing. You're more than welcome to do that.
Okay,
I'm just
so-
trying to...
No, I understand. So if I
I
vote-
understand your question, but I'm saying is, right now, let's say you vote no, or yay, or abstain, you then, after this motion has concluded, you can go ahead and make a motion on the floor for exactly what you're inquiring.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does.
Okay. So now I need an answer from you.
No, I would like to vote yes, because I want to work together to move this process forward. But I would also like to reiterate that I want us to have a budget hearing before we adopt this budget, because the clock starts now. And we owe that to the taxpayers who have been dealt body blow after body blow, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do that.
Okay, so Mr. Musella, Mr. Neglia,
Yes.
and Ms. Grignani.
Yes,
Okay, so motion passes. Make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to schedule a budget hearing on this.
Okay, so, go ahead, I'm sorry, Council President, if we need a motion, we need a second? So I have a
I would
motion by...
like to ask a question first of Councilman Vasella. Do you want every department head, or are you focusing in on?
Before,
certain
I'm sorry,
departments?
Council President, before we have discussion, there has to be a second. If there's no second, then the motion fails.
All right, I'll second it, so we can have
Okay.
discussion.
All right, so, we have a motion by Mr. Musella, we have a second by Mr. Karifi. Discussion, I apologize, Council President,
That's
continue.
quite all right. Are there any particular departments, once you look at this budget, that you want to be presented to us?
Yeah, all of them.
Okay, so at this point, do we have any other discussion with regards to this motion? Seeing none, I will go ahead and take roll call. I will remind, we have three options. You can abstain, yea, or nay. Any, but if you wanted to say something, Council Member.
No, I
Karifi,
just
please
wanted
do
to
so.
say is if Councilman Musella is going to have any discussion with any of these departments beforehand, because some of the questions that he has may be answered beforehand, and certain departments may not have to come if all his questions are answered.
So
I
based on,
believe all of our questions have been answered, right?
so based on that.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely, Mayor.
This is getting ridiculous right now, with regards to this and stuff like that. So, there's no issue with having, the public, and having the hearings. We'd have to just speed it up, we'd have to, and I can tell you this much, there's nothing to cut in the budget. And if anybody thinks there is, I mean, up here, really, you don't understand the budget all that well, only because we are at a point at Parsippany that we cut any more of our appropriation, and I'm only quoting the auditor. The auditor of the town says, you continue to cut your appropriations like what's happened in 2021, you're never gonna get out of the mess, and we're never gonna get special dispensation from the state to carry and cancel appropriations. But with that being said, I have no issue with having department heads come here. We'll schedule it all in 1 or 2 days, and then we'll move forward with it. But I will tell you this, I will be up there with them, I will answer the questions as well. So will Jamie and so will Len with regards to, our departments, especially the police. And I bring this up for a reason. If those positions were filled and they weren't defunded in a way where, when a police officer retires, if they would have just hired, our budget would never be this cumbersome. But when you go down to 81 deployable, now you gotta hire again, and then your budget increases, and that's what's happening here. We have departments that are struggling, departments where we can't even get individuals to even come and apply, okay? But the bottom line is this, I have no issue with it. It's no problem. Just, if you guys wanna do it, feel free.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, we have a motion on the floor made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. We can go ahead and take roll. Mr. Musella, I will let you know, since you made the motion, you can proceed with it, you can pull the motion for now or table the motion, speak to the department heads as Councilmember Karifi suggested, and make a second motion at the next meeting if you'd like, or we can just proceed now.
The mayor said it,
Okay.
he agrees,
So
so let's
motion-
just have a motion to
Motion
vote.
made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. I'm going to go into roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Okay, I'll say yes.
Mr. DePiero?
I've already done my homework, but I'll go along with it.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
I'm going to say yes, but being on the Finance Council with Councilman Neglia, and speaking with our auditor several times, and within the past few days, and even last night, there is nothing to be cut from this budget. She worked very hard on reducing this budget to get it to an amount that I believe is going to be acceptable to our residents at $99 for them. I will go along with Mr. Musella's, and I will say yes.
Okay, so for, the motion passes for the public's information. We will then go ahead and we will schedule the budget hearings, picking, 1 or 2 dates. They will then be, posted for the public, so you guys know when they're gonna be coming up, so. Moving forward.
Call, please.
Ordinance 2023:07, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 430 titled Zoning, the amend Section 430-96 titled Conditional Uses to update same. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on April 18, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on May 16, 2023 at 7 p.m. prevailing time or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. A motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Justin, please.
Bond ordinance 2023:4, bond ordinance providing for various water utility capital improvements in and by the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, appropriating $7,220,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $7,222,000 bonds or notes to finance the cost thereof. The notice for ordinance 2023:4 was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on March 27, 2023, and introduced at the March 21, 2023 regular meeting. Motion to accept 2023:4 be heard in their second and final reading by title only, made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes. Need a motion for the public hearing?
Justin?
Make a motion for the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Okay, a motion passes. The floor is open. 5 minutes to speak, but only on this ordinance, please.
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. I noticed the $7,222,000, there's no itemized bill, shall we say. It doesn't tell you an inventory of what the money is going for. And I have here in front of me a list from late 2021, early 22 of 11 of the 19 Parsippany wells, 4 were pump problems, and 7 were a combination of no water or contamination. One, they have to look for a new well. I believe it's well 20R is. So the bottom line is, what is this $7,222 covering, and is it responsible for any of these 11 of our 19 wells that had serious problems? All this happened during the Soriano administration. Could have happened at any time. It happened to happen during his administration. So at that time, because of this, there wasn't enough money and supposedly, source surplus, which we're still using. And none of this was itemized for price. So I want to know, what is can the 7 million plus cover all of these problems?
You want to read it?
Or will we have, we did raise, rather than raise taxes, remember, we raised water rates, and then we raised taxes.
Nick, I'm going to cut you off because we do have a list of items and the amounts.
All right, it's not here.
It's in the ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
And
Okay.
how come it's not transparent here?
I think it is,
I tried to find it on,
the
on
ordinance
the,
that was, from last week, and I think it's posted as well. That's just the, agenda that you have, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was here last week. I don't recall. I guess I didn't pick up the paper.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, it's right
Okay.
there.
He's got the list.
Scale, can you just show him the,
All right, but my
One of those three
question,
piles. If you'd like, I can read it out, Council
yeah,
President.
all right, but how
Yes,
about the
please.
$7,222,000?
So the breakdown that's in the ordinance.
Be able to
All
tell
right.
you.
Thank
So-
you, Council President. Water infrastructure replacement pursuant to the Water Quality Act, Accountability Act, as mandated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, that's 3.5 million. The useful life on that is 40 years. Drilling and replacement of wells for the water utility, including but not limited to well 3, well 14, and well 17. That's 2.5 million with a useful life of 40 years. Rehabilitation of the steel tank and radio communications for the water tank located on Route 287, 650,000, useful life of 10 years. Acquisition of a trailer-mounted hydro excavator and, that's 70,000, 5-year useful life. And Section 20 costs $500,000.
All right, I'm looking at what you have here and what I have here, two different list of wells.
Your list, where is that from?
This is from an agenda back in, I believe it was either February or March of 2022.
So, I'm sure,
Wells 10, 4, 4A, 17, 1A, 1AR, 21, 20, 19, 8, 20, and 20, 11 wells. These are different water infrastructure on the inventory.
Nick, you have
This is one-
30 seconds.
All right, but this is different. And my question was not answered.
Well, no, we can provide that information to you, but most of the problems with those wells that you read off before have been addressed. As a matter of fact, by 2024, we're supposed to be at 100%.
All right,
So-
but it doesn't have any, like I said, there wasn't an itemized price.
No, but I'm just trying to answer your question that you said, have these wells been repaired? And yeah, they have, and there's, I think, 2 left that have to be done, and the second one of those is supposed to be done in early next year, 2024, so that we're at 100%. And we could get you a list
of the cost.
Well, I'm sure we could get you a list of the costs,
Sure.
but I was just answering your question about were those problems addressed with those various wells, which most of them have, and there's 2 left which they're addressing.
All right, and let it be known that this
All right, so-
list is not
Okay,
this
Nick.
list.
so Nick, just so you know, if you need that information, you can always file an OPA with my office and we can get that.
And I didn't get an answer.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, you should call me and we should talk.
All right, I'll call you tomorrow.
All right.
Motion to close.
Make a motion to close the
Second.
public hearing?
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr.
Yes.
Karifi. Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes, floor is closed. Justin. Mr. Musella, you gotta continue the whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held
Yeah, I was
thereon.
listening to that. Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading, that notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution above for ordinance 2023:4 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia. Ms.
Yes.
Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2023-05, bond ordinance providing for the various road improvements of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey appropriating $2,520,000, therefore, and authorizing the issues of $2.4 million in bonds or notes of the township to the finance part of the cost thereof. The notice of ordinance 2023-05 was published in the Daily Record by the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills on March 27, 2023, and introduced at the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting. Motion to accept ordinance 2023-05 be heard in their second and final reading by title only by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2023-05 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Floor is open. I have 5 minutes to speak on this ordinance only. Seeing no one.
Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2023-05 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and hearing held hereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading and that notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution above for ordinance 2023-05 by myself. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Non-consent agenda, resolution R 2023-066, declaring a certain property identified as block 737, lot 3, on the official tax map of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills and located at 249 Pomeroy Road as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes. Consent agenda?
Consent agenda. Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed and the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Leonard Ho recommends authorization for payment. Authorized payment of the April 28, 2023 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1.65 million. Payment of bills from voucher list of 4/15/23 through 4/17/23 is $1,862,039. Motion to approve the authorization for payment above made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
And Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
We are adjourned, everyone. Thank you and have a good night.
Well, what's going to be good for you? What's going to be good for you?
Budget hearing?